A reading from the book of the prophet Micah. Thus says the Lord, You, Bethlehem Ephratah, too small to be among the clans of Judah. From you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose origin is from of old, from ancient times. Therefore the Lord will give them up until the time when she who is to give birth has born, and the rest of his kindred shall return to the children of Israel. He shall stand firm and shepherd his flock by the strength of the Lord in the majestic name of the Lord his God. And they shall remain, for now his greatness shall reach the ends of the earth. He shall be peace. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Christmas is almost here. For this fourth week of Advent, can we feel the promise in this reading? We're told that a strong shepherd will come, great, majestic, bringing peace. This is a reading full of anticipation, spurring us to await Christmas more eagerly. We as Dominicans who want to be preachers after Christ's own heart are encouraged. And we as Catholics can take heart after an especially discouraging year. Micah's prophecy has a lot more to say to our situation than we might initially think. In this prophecy of hope and promise, Micah first looks at Israel, the chosen people in the promised land, and he sees so much wrong. He looks around and he knows discouragement. He knows disgust. He knows sadness. All these feelings at this widespread corruption that he sees all around him. Micah sees rich Israelites looking to grow richer by taking land which belonged to other people's ancestral heritage, land given out in Israelite understanding by divine decree to ensure that each family had enough to live. He sees greed ignoring this divine decree, and people taking advantage of each other. He also sees money being lent at crippling interest rates, and those unable to pay back being sold into slavery. He has a keen sense that all of this corruption is totally out of place among God's holy people. And he sees priests and prophets who seem not to have this same sense that he does. He sees them either unwilling or unable to fulfill the mission which God has given them to call the people back to God. He sees prophets bribed by steady meals to prophesy favorably for the powerful. And he sees the judges, the very officials of Israel, having their decisions altered by bribery. The spiritual state of Micah's Israel is a wasteland. He sees a people who have turned their backs on God to a staggering degree, and he sees those tasked with bringing Israel back into right relationship failing in their office. He is outraged, yes, that's clear in chapters 1 through 4, but he's also heartbroken. As I've pondered these things, I've thought of the failings of high-ranking churchmen and the ways in which these failings have harmed the people of God. I see abundant evidence in the church today that so many have either forgotten God's call for them or have neglected it, have failed to follow it. And I realize with some fear and trepidation that I'm one of the ones called now to be faithful and help make things right. We all are. As Micah calls the Israelite people throughout this book of prophecy, so does he call Christians, the Christian hierarchy and all the Christian people, to conversion. We might more faithfully represent the promise of Christ's church on earth. And he reminds all of us in this reading of the promise that awaits. This prophecy of Micah's and others like it are crucial as we try to keep heart now. The prophecies of promise, all of them, this one, Isaiah, Jeremiah, they all expose one thought, a particularly dangerous lie, that the thought that the work of good and faithful servants won't be enough. That in the face of all these problems, lack of credibility, falling mass attendance, growing numbers of unbelievers, corruption in the hierarchical church, that our work, the work we're called to, brothers, as good and faithful preachers, won't be enough. That's the lie. Through this prophecy, Jesus consoles us. We, as preachers, need to let Him console us. We need to soak in this consolation. We need to bask in this. To let God care for, heal us first. Let God's words encourage us. To edify us in our Christian vocations, yes, and our vocations as Dominicans. To turn more toward the one we follow. That one, that Jesus is the only reason I want to be a Dominican friar. It's the only reason that we have any hope that our mission will succeed. If not for Jesus, I would not want to be a priest. I would not want to be a religious. Even if I did, what good could I do, could I hope to do, in the face of so much wickedness that we've seen in the name of the church, under the aegis of the church? Couldn't I do more good elsewhere? And get married and have kids besides? We don't have a reason to hope that our mission is going to succeed if not for the one we follow, the one to whom this prophecy points. The promised ruler of Israel whose origin is from of old. The one the prophets, Micah and Jeremiah and Isaiah and all the others, longed for, and whose coming we will soon celebrate. Only because of Jesus and His promises can we have strength to continue. This is a prophecy about Jesus. He stands firm even now. He wants people to know that. He begs for more people to share in the divine life with Him. And He promises that His flock will remain. His flock, this faithful flock, which we are a part of, will not be scattered. Who are we to this prophecy? Who is Micah? We are first members of that flock. He was faithful, Micah was. Faithful. And he lived as God wanted him to live, and so must we. And great news, we have guides. So many guides. It's great news. We have the virtues, gifts of the Spirit, beatitudes, works of mercy. That's all baptized Christians. Teachings of the church's spiritual masters. All to help us grow in faithfulness. And as Dominicans, even more. The rule of Augustine, our constitutions. The thought of Thomas Aquinas. I could go on. And all of these we can engage faithfully and help us to share in our prophetic office. Micah was a member of the chosen people, heartbroken at the corruption that he saw. And in that heartbreak, we can be sure that he lifted his heart in prayer and contemplation. We all know the Dominican saying, contemplate and share the fruits of your contemplation. Here in this prophecy, we have received the fruits of Micah's contemplation. What he received, he couldn't keep to himself. He was called to speak on God's behalf. And brothers, a scary thought, so are we. So let's take heart in this one who has come and will come again. Continue to be faithful. Strive to be more so. Let us also continue to be heartbroken and not be afraid of the heartbreak that there is still to come. But in that heartbreak, let us lift up our hearts. Let them be filled with the promise of this reading. Let it overflow in our hearts, so that joy and glad tidings are poured out. As an order of preachers, we, like Micah, accept a call to be prophets, and we have good news to share.